we went through those real quick. We'll be sending out stuff probably on Search for Life before that. But we're going to let you guys get that on your calendar way in advance. We'd love to have you all there. Alright, we're going to dive in. Who's ever sat through a really boring, don't tell me who, but a really boring talk or like class period, or like you've had a teacher that you listen to talk and you're like, oh my gosh, how are you this bad, right?
Oh my gosh,
right. Hopefully it's not me, hands down. So, confession. The worst sermon or talk I've ever heard in my life, right? Worst ever, like when I gouged your eyeballs out, unfortunately was when I was gay, right? Which is kind of bad, right? So it works like this. I was in seminary, right, which is where they teach you to be a pastor, and I'm taking a preaching class, which actually made me a much worse preacher, but that's okay. I just want to slow down. Who does that? So I get into this class.
Coffee.
It's good coffee. It's good for me. But I get into this class, and so we're supposed to write a sermon for the people in this class, right? And they're all theology nerds. These are the people that, like, Friday night, they want to stay up and, like, debate philosophy all night. And they're the people that think that reading, like, huge books like this big from people who have been dead for 2,000 years is a lot of fun, right? This is what they do. So I write this sermon. It's, like, targeted at them, right? And it's not really full of good humor because the teacher's a really sweet lady, but her idea of fun is, like, to take jokes that are actually funny and then to, like, break them down and diagram them. You know, it's like, oh, this is the subject, and this is the predicate, and this is why it's funny. And if you guys have ever had to explain a joke, you know how immediately not funny it becomes, right? Like, I can tell you the funniest joke in the world, and then the second I go, oh, it is funny because it's dumb, right? It's dead, right? Autopsy dead. So this is a sermon that's really well targeted for that group, right? It's really well targeted to people who are bored, okay? But here's the problem. Right at the same time I'm about to give this sermon in class, I get a job at an awesome church called Highland Park. And I'm getting ready to start, and I'm so excited to meet the youth, and I'm going in for my first time, and I get a message from my boss. You know, emergency came up, you're preaching tonight. Use that sermon that I know you got, because I've told my boss that I've got this sermon for class. And I go, okay, cool, right, you know, because emergency came up, this happens. And then I think, oh my gosh, this sermon is so going to totally bomb with the youth, right? But I don't have time to rewrite it, like there's no time. So the whole day I'm kind of drained. I'm trying to modify some things, but I'm dreading because I know how bad this sermon's going to be, right? So, to give you an illustration, throw that first slide over. This is literally, I think, the first sentence of that sermon that I was giving in class, right? Can somebody even try to read that for me? Anybody want to give it a shot?
The ecclesiastical unity present in the cleft visions present in the undisputed poly reimagines the whole
The only word I know out of that is the in hope. Unity, reimagined.
Right, so
Pauline.
to a bunch of seminary nerds, this is like an engaging opening. This is like, yeah! And to everybody else in the world, they're like, what language is that? Right? Yeah, okay. So, hit the next slide. What do you think that means? We're going to do a little poll. What do you think that even meant?
Number one.
I'm Batman. Right? 2, something about Jesus, maybe. 3, Paul thinks love is cool. Or 4, it's what the fox says.
1, 8,
right?
4.
What do you guys think? 1 and 4? I got 1 and 4.
2.
Any guesses? 2?
4.
4? 3?
That's tough.
All the above.
Correct answer is actually 3. Right? Yeah, well done. Right. Okay, take that off. But here's the deal. I get to speak and like, I feel passionate about God, and I feel passionate about ministry, and I felt called to ministry since I was a kid. So like, normally, that's a comfortable place for me, right? But I get up to speak, and I know this thing's going to work. And I say that first sentence, and immediately half the kids' eyes like blaze up, like, oh no, this guy's speaking weird, right? And the other half are like you can see that anticipation, where it's like, they're waiting for the punchline, which means that over the next 20 minutes, I get to watch the light like slowly fade in their eyes as they realize it's not coming. And so there's this like slow death, and like I'm dying up on stage because I knew it was gonna bomb, and I get up there and it's like bombing worse than I can imagine. Right? You know those like bombs where your life like explodes and you're stuck? This was a very slow one, right? And so for 20 minutes, I'm standing up there, this sermon that I wanted to nail because it's my first one there, and I was so hoping it would go well, and it's just awful. Right? It's just like the worst experience that I could be in, right? Like we've all had moments where like life kind of explodes and kind of bombs and we kind of knock down, right? Like the thing where you're talking and there's a big group of people and you're in an even bigger group of people, like a party or something. You're telling an embarrassing story about like the last time you went to bed, which was like a week ago. And right as you hit your punchline, that's when like everybody else in the party chose to like pause their conversations and focus on you. So like what was supposed to be like really funny for like you and one other friend is now like everybody heard me say that. right? It can make you self-conscious. Or like do this thing where, like you finally get the guts to raise your hand in class and try to answer the teacher's really tough questions, and you throw out your best shot, and the teacher just stares at you like Shakespeare, right?
They're like, no.
Hey.
Yeah.
I was told by
Just
the
stop
music
talking.
director that was actually an honor band. He said if you're gonna fail epically.
I believe
And
that's true.
I think I've proceeded.
I'm proud of you. Well done. How's this for an epic fail? You finally get the courage to like talk to or maybe even ask out like that guy or girl that you kind of have a crush on, and they don't just say no. Like they just start laughing, right? They just start cracking up, and then goes, "Oh, you're serious? Oh, like that." Like sometimes we get knocked down and it's like funny. It's a funny story later. But sometimes we get knocked down and stuff blows up and it's a little worse. Like it gets under our skin a little bit. You know, like our parents come down on us a little hard because we got a bad grade or we didn't do so good on a sports thing or a music thing or maybe you try out for an event or a team and they've never cut anybody in the past, but they make a special exception for you, right? And so you're the first person in the history of this team that gets cut.
That'd be me. Just
Maybe,
saying.
Shut up there.
Hey, be nice. Be nice. Maybe you got a friend and you open up to him, right? And so you're somebody who normally keeps stuff pretty close to the chest, but you just had to be a little vulnerable and you take a chance and you open up to somebody and tell them a secret, and they let it out, right? Maybe you have a bad day. You know, you get tired or you get just a little behind on sleep, and you lash out in anger, you lash out in just exhaustion, and you do something you wouldn't normally do. That's not you, right? But for whatever reason, that's the one point where everybody seems to pay attention and they catch you, and that's what they latch onto you about, right? Like we all have times that we get knocked down. We all have times that like stuff goes wrong and it gets under our skin, right? And it starts to lock into who we are and it kind of messes with our heads. When I bomb that song, I'm like, I've messed up songs before, and I don't want to do that, but it happens, right? But for whatever reason, that time it kind of got to me, and so I spent a little while thinking like, maybe this preacher thing's not what I'm called to do, right? And so since I was a kid, I thought I was going into ministry, but I started to like question, like, is this really what I'm about? Like, if that's what I do, is this really who I am? And so for a while, like, not only did I get knocked down, but I kind of stayed down. You know what I'm talking about? Like, where something goes wrong and then you just kind of like turtle up and like shut the world out. Right? You wake up in the morning and you just kind of wish that what happened yesterday was like a bad dream. That whatever happened, you're so embarrassed or ashamed or it just hurts that you want to forget it, but unfortunately nobody else will let you. And so you're just kind of stuck, trying to fly under the radar. It stops making you want to take a chance. You don't want to be creative or outgoing. You don't want to put yourself out there because you don't want to get hurt. Right? We've all been there. We've all had times that kind of knock us out. Kind of knock us off our rhythm. This last few weeks we've been talking about a guy named Peter. Right? Peter gets knocked out. We've been talking about some of the great things that Peter does. This is a statue of Peter that's in the Vatican. Peter does some awesome stuff. Peter also gets knocked down. He makes a lot of mistakes. There's this one time that Peter and his buddies, the disciples, are hanging out in a boat, right, and they're on the lake, and they see Jesus walking on the lake, and Jesus says, "Hey Peter, come out here." And so Peter's terrified, right, because he's supposed to come walk on water. That's kind of freaky. But he gets all of his courage up, and he steps out of the boat, and as he's walking, like, he's clearly terrified. And everybody's watching, all eyes are on him. And, you know, reasonably, he gets scared. And so for a second, he kind of loses complete confidence, and he starts to sink. And not only is he sinking, but unfortunately, everybody there is watching him. And they know just how afraid he is, because they watch as he stops being able to walk and starts to go down into the water, and Jesus has to save him. Everybody watches him fall. Or like, Peter gets to hang out with Jesus for 3 years, and so he learns all about peace and trying to get a drink. But yet at one point, some soldiers come to arrest Jesus, and things get really tense. And Peter kind of forgets all that in the heat of the moment. He draws a sword and starts trying to kill people. But he loses everything that he's learned, everything that he spent 3 years like pouring into. That all disappears really quick when push comes to shove. Another big one, we talked about it in the church a couple weeks ago. Peter's with Jesus when Jesus gets arrested, but then he has the courage to follow Jesus into the lion's den, into the place where all the soldiers and all the Pharisees and everybody else is taking Jesus. And it's terrifying, and nobody else even goes. And Peter has the courage to go there, but we don't remember that. Instead, for the last 2,000 years in that story, we've remembered the part where Peter gets scared and backs down before open grave, right? Peter messes up one time or 3 quick times there, and yet that's something we'll fix it with, right? Peter gets knocked down, and that's the thing that we remember. I think there were a lot of times it was probably pretty easy for Peter to just want to turtle up, right? To just say, you know, one mistake too many. That's one time I put my neck out there and I've gotten it chopped off. That's one more time that I've tried something and I've had courage and it just hasn't been done, right? There were 1,000 times that people have said enough is enough, I'm done, right? I'm just gonna try and fly under the radar. And I'm so grateful we did. Because over the last couple of weeks, we've also talked about some of the incredible things that Peter's done. We talked about the fact that Peter's changed the world. There's one part where Jesus renames Peter. He says, you no longer read, you no longer be pushed around by everything around you, the rock on which I'm going to build my church. And then there's this cool part which says, the gates of hell will not stand up against the church. Bless you. Too often we think that means that like, the church is going to stand strong against everybody else. Right? That, like the church is going to defend its own. But look at the imagery. Gates are defensive. It's the gates of hell, not the gates of the church. What this means is Jesus is saying, I'm going to make the church so strong that you're going to need it. That hell itself is going to be scared. Right? That all the darkness and evil in this world is going to be scared of how great this church is. Right? That's who Peter is. He's championed this world. I used to think, and sometimes I still fall into this, that the reason Peter's doing that is because he's got some like internal strength, some internal courage, which really good. It's really just huge, right? He's got some internal courage that it just helps him get back up when things knock him down. Okay. So he's got some courage that's just helping him get back up, right? But I don't think it's actually. I don't think Peter is this strong because he's different than us. I think the reason that Peter can get back up again and again and again is because he's just like you and I, but he remembers something very, very important. The whole time Peter's getting knocked down, he keeps his vision firmly fixed on Jesus. And he remembers what Jesus goes through. And he remembers that just as Peter's getting knocked down, that Jesus got knocked down. That just as Peter feels abandoned, that Jesus got abandoned by his friends when he didn't get abused. That just as Peter feels betrayed at times, that Jesus got betrayed. That Jesus got tortured, that Jesus got killed. I mean, that's as far down as getting knocked, right? But that even when things are at their worst, that Jesus rises up from your head. That no matter how bad things got, that Jesus can come through that. And I don't think that Peter's just that much stronger than you and I. I don't think that he's like supernaturally tough and able to pick himself back up. I think it's that he's relying on the strength of God. Because he knows that the God who can go through all of those things can help him out as well. There's this passage of scripture that's attributed to Jesus. I'm sorry, we can get back up because Jesus got back up. But there's this passage of scripture that we're talking about. It's attributed to Peter, right? Where Peter's writing to a church that's experiences persecution, right? The government's trying to stamp him out, the government's trying to kill him. And so Peter's writing these words to give them some encouragement. And I want you to listen to the tone, right? Because this doesn't feel like somebody who's writing to people who are getting beat up. It doesn't feel like, hey, it's going to be okay to make it. Go and throw that scripture out there. This is what Peter writes. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. By his great mercy, he's given us a new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you. That doesn't sound like a guy who's saying, hey, just hold on, we'll make it, right? This is a guy who's advancing, even in the force of overwhelming opposition, right? Even when he's getting knocked down, even when everybody's against him, even when the Roman Empire, which is the most powerful government the world had ever seen at this point, is trying to wipe out Christianity, he's coming out full speed. Because Peter has built his life and his strength on the Christ. He knows that no matter how much he gets knocked down, he can get back up. It's beautiful and it's bold and it's strong. And the great thing is that it works for us too. Right? We're going to get knocked down in life. We've already been there. We've already had times that we kind of felt defeated, where we kind of wanted to pass by. And hopefully there haven't been that many for you, but I think unfortunately we all feel that sometimes. But there are going to be more times where that happens, I hate to say it. There are going to be times where there are people let us down, people move away, people die, relationships get broken. We're going to have times where we knock down. And we can choose to try to get up on our own. Right? We can choose to try to make this about us and our strength and what we can do. And maybe it'll work. And we can rely on strength that's true. On strength that we know is real. We can rely on Jesus, who we know loves us, and who we know has been through more dirt and mud and pain than we'll ever be, and who came through it. We can rely on a God who went through all of those things because he loves us, and nothing's going to stop him. See, Jesus overcame abandonment and torture and death itself, and that's the strength that dwells in us, and that's the strength that we're called to rely on in we're gonna close up a little different today. I'm gonna throw a song up here. Some of you guys will know some of that. And we'll use that to kick off prayer time. Right? It's a song by a guy named Macklemore. Maybe you guys have heard of him. It's my favorite rapper right now. This is the radio edit because the official version is not clean. But hold up real quick. For those of you who don't know, Macklemore, he tends to talk about some pretty deep issues. He had a drug issue in the past, an alcohol and a drug issue. And his first album came out after he'd been clean for a couple of years. But it really inspired a lot of other people to get clean from what was going on in their life. But then he messed up. He made a mistake. He took two drinks of codeine to get over a cold when he was in the middle of a performance. Unfortunately, got addicted. Went right back in it. And so it was really hard for him to look his parents in the face after all of them had gotten clean because he did. Right? So this is his story of what happened when he fell down and tried to get back up. It's not a perfect example. The words are powerful and beautiful. And they give a good example of what getting back up looks like, I think. So we're going to listen to this and we're going to prayer time. So while that's playing, I'll go back. While that's playing, I'm going to go ahead and pass out the cards and the pins. Once this is over, go straight into prayer time. We'll listen to play some music. And then put your prayers up here in your notebook. Just like normal, this is your chance to pray, to connect with God, to let Him know what's going on in your life. And if you want to write down a prayer on a note card, we'll pray for this one. So go ahead and start that. This is the song.
Privacy. If I don't talk about it, then I carry a date. 08/10/08, and now it's been changed. And when they put me in some box, it's the same that I never was. It's the false prophet that never came. Or will they think that everything that I've written is all their faith? Or will I just take my slip to the grave? What the fuck are my parents gonna say? The success story, they got his life together and changed. And you know what pain looks like when you tell your dad you relapsed and look him directly into his face. Shoulders deceivingly heavyweight. I've been seeing tears like this on my girl in a while. The trust that I once built been betrayed. But I'd rather live telling the truth than be judged for my mistakes than falsely held. I give her props, loved, and praised. I guess I gotta get this on the page. Feeling sick and helpless, lost the compass where soap is. I know what I gotta do, and I can't help it. One day at a time is what they tell us. Now I gotta find a way to tell them. Like I'm some wise monk. I wanna tell her I relapsed, but I can't. I just shake her head and tell her congrats. Get back to
close with